Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video day, and today was reported on Bleacher Report that NFL insiders expect the Atlanta Falcons to cut Kirk Cousins in the beginning of the NFL new year, which is in March. And look, this isn't a huge surprise. We heard that the Falcons were most likely going to cut Kirk Cousins, but there were some rumblings before their season ended, or maybe when the playoffs started, or right after their season ended, that they would consider or be open to him, maybe playing a role as a backup next season to Michael Penix Jr. And maybe they'd be open to that and consider it. That doesn't sound smart to have that rich of a backup quarterback. You'd have one hell of a backup quarterback, because Kirk Cousins would not only be the highest paid backup quarterback in football, but probably the most talented backup quarterback in football. Because, look, I think Kirk Cousins has shown he's aged and his injury has affected him, but I think he's still shown that he has had games, he's had some good performances to the point where you look at it, and he's still a starter on a good chunk of teams. Like, I think I could look at it and say he's probably a starter on either New York teams, or he's a starter with potentially the Raiders or the Steelers. So that's why I think he'd be one hell of a backup quarterback to have, but it's a very expensive one. And it's also something I don't think Kirk wants to do. Kirk doesn't want to waste his last year. I'm not going to say last good years, but Kirk doesn't want to waste his last years as a backup. And I think he'd be great to continue to teach Michael Penix Jr., because I think we saw some really good things from that kid, at the end of the season. His first game, I think, was a little bit rough. But he had some good moments and some bad moments in his first game, which was against the Commanders. Had some really good moments, had some bad moments against the Commanders in his first start. But then against the Giants in his second start is when he really had some really good plays, but it was the Giants. And then the last week of the season against the Panthers, I thought he had a really good game, but we could also say that was against the Panthers. So I think we'll just have to see how he looks next season. If you ask me, I would say he looked good, but he sure as hell faced some weak defenses. I mean, we can look at the Commanders, and we know their pass defense wasn't amazing this season, and their run defense was bottom 5 in football. And then with the Panthers, they had the worst run defense in football, and they also did have one of the worst run games in football as well. It wasn't as terrible as their run defense, though. And then the Giants, their defense was not good at all this season. So, look, I'm not trying to make excuses for Penix's very solid play as a rookie at the end of the year. I'm just saying I'd like to see him against some more competitive teams, and we'll see how he looks. But so far, I like the kid. I think he's a good quarterback, but it's good to have a great quarterback, very experienced quarterback as your backup. But you don't want to waste Kirk Cousins' time like that, or waste your cap space having what he's making money wise as your backup quarterback. So, as much as I think there are a handful of teams that would love to have Kirk Cousins on their team, but then there's every team in the league that doesn't want that contract on their team. And I think it's very similar to Russell Wilson his last offseason, and that's what these NFL insiders are comparing it to. A lot of teams wanted Russell Wilson last offseason. A lot of teams really wanted to go out there and go get Russell Wilson, but absolutely no one wanted his contract, and that's why they cut him as the new year. The league new year began, just like Kirk Cousins is supposed to happen with Kirk Cousins, and very shortly after that, he signed with the Steelers, because Russ had a very hot market. No one wanted to trade for that hot market, though, and it's going to be the same way with Kirk Cousins. I won't be surprised if Kirk Cousins signs very quickly after he gets cut. I don't think it'll be as quick as Russell Wilson signed, but I don't think it'll take too long to sign Kirk Cousins. I think if Kirk Cousins had a good contract, we'd see a trade very quickly, but that's not the case. His contract is god awful. But Kirk had some good moments, had some bad moments. He had the most interceptions thrown in his career at 16. It was in only 14 starts this year. The team went 7-7 in his 14 starts. He did throw 3,500 passing yards in those 14 starts, so would have thrown 4,000 this season if he completed 17 games. He definitely would have thrown 500 in 3 games, especially the defenses they faced in the last 3 games. And then also we got the fact that, he threw 18 touchdown passes and completion percentage was 67%. I think he had some really good games, but then he had some really bad games. Like the Eagles, I remember that drive he had to lead them down touchdown. That's a great Kirk Cousins game right there. Or the game he had against the Cowboys. He had some really good games this season for the Falcons. But I think there were more really bad games than there were good. Like I remember watching the game against the Raiders. That's a game where you're supposed to kill that Raiders defense. Most people did that this season, and he just was god awful in that game. And somehow they still won because the Raiders are that bad of a team. But yeah, I just think. And what we heard recently is the news is that he said he was injured for most of the year. I'm not going to call him a liar. Just seems like that might be a way to try to heat up his market, if I would say. Maybe teams would be more interested in him if they knew, okay, he was maybe playing a little bit bad because of the injury he had, and maybe he'll start to play better next year once he's fully healthy. I definitely think maybe he was. I will say this: at times he did not look like he was 100%, but he still threw 16 interceptions this season. He had a bad year. I think the injury he had still can play a role in that, but not a huge role. But if he gets fully healthy next year, if that was really affecting him this year, and he gets fully healthy next year, and you put him on the right offense, he has to have the right scheme around him, good offense, good coaching. Kirk Cousins very well might have a very nice bounce back season next year. And that's just my prediction. If Kirk was really banged up this year and really wasn't in the right ways, and he goes to a team that is 100% the right fit, he will have an amazing season. If those injuries, if whatever is affecting him is continuing to affect him, it's going to get worse for Kirk Cousins. But I hope it doesn't. I love Kirk Cousins, and I loved watching him in Minnesota. Hey, what about a potential Kirk Cousins in Minnesota reunion? I doubt it. But that would be fun. That would be funny and fun. But let me know your thoughts on the Falcons expected to cut Kirk Cousins, which NFL insiders are expecting this to happen at the league new year, and comparing it to what happened with Russell Wilson last year. This video, hope you guys enjoyed it, and peace out.